she turned around to me and she said to me, Dame is here right now. Do you want to speak to him? And I was like, whoa. I didn't prepare for this. I didn't know this was gonna happen right now. So, I want to share with you today a very interesting experience that I had. I think it's both interesting, funny, educational, and just shows you that tenacity, hunger, and real enthusiasm can get you to anybody, and I mean anybody that you aspire to getting in contact with. I managed to get a conversation, in fact, a telephone meeting with Damon Dash a few years ago. And it turned out both interesting and, for me, I learned a lot from it because it reassured me that you can get your hands or you can get in contact with anyone you set your mind to if you're tenacious, aggressive, and smart enough. So, in this video, I want to share with you how I did it. Now, Damon Dash is the CEO, was the co-founder of Rockefeller Records, which was he co-owned with Jay-Z. He also co-owned it with Kareem Biggs Burks, and they had this record label called Rockefeller Records, The Rock, which would basically go on to breed some of our legends today. So the likes of Kanye West was signed to Rockefeller, Beanie Siegels, you know, they had the whole industry in a headlock, basically. They had Rockefeller Clothing as well, which was also very big, and the three of them went on to sell the business and make hundreds of millions of pounds. But the point of this story is this. For me, what I found, really intriguing about Dame Dash from the start was he was the first entrepreneur that I saw online that was very boisterous with their attitude. He used to walk into boardrooms shouting, demanding things.
How to do it? Do you want to be in the music business? You can't run no company without no fucking crew, man. And what better fucking crew to have than the niggas you grew up with? You should depend on him like he depends on you, and y'all should all depend on each other. But that it has to be bigger than just Clue. Desert Storm should mean more than Clue. He wore what he wanted to wear, and he was very millennial for his time. Of course, successful as well. So for me, as an aspiring entrepreneur, watching Dame Dash online was just amazing to me. And he used to motivate me to want to to be more and to just believe in myself. So while I was running MYCOMEUP.com, the blog, with my business partner, we used to do a lot of videos around Dame Dash and just sharing his words of wisdoms. We were real advocates of him. Obviously we knew his attitude, we knew he had that pizzazz around him. But for me, one of my personal goals was to get an interview with Dame Dash, to work with him, if anything, right? To try to let him know about the way we were promoting him, because our videos for Dame Dash were seeing hundreds of thousands of views, as you can see. But for me, it was just about getting in contact with him and just kind of building that relationship, because maybe he didn't know, in my mind, he had such a fan base in the UK. So my goal was to get myself on the phone with Dame Dash to either do business with me or to have an interview. But nevertheless, I want to share with you how that went down and how, realistically speaking, I'm telling you, you can get yourself in front of whoever you want to through the telephone when you put your mind to it. So I remember when Dame Dash had just kind of, he separated with Jay-Z and he started to do a lot of content online on YouTube. And for me, as I said to you before, with MYCOMEUP, we used to do a lot of videos around Dame Dash and kind of do words of wisdoms to share his stories and his tips. And one thing I kind of realized, trying to get in contact with him is that, it was going to be a hard mission because we were based in London and he was in America. And, being in London, and him being in America, this is before Instagram, Facebook was around, Twitter was around, but there was not really a means of communicating with him. So what I did was this. I went ahead and did the smart way of it. I went ahead and did something which I think was tenacious, smart, and you can do it today. I went ahead and researched Dame Dash's companies because my first mission was, how do I get in contact with Dame Dash? How do I get to him? How do I get his number?
So I remember researching. He had 3 businesses at the time. One was Blue Rock, which was one of his labels, a subsidiary he made. He had another one called Creative Control, and he also had another business called, I can't remember the other business, but he had 3 of them anyway. So what I went ahead and did is I actually went around and called all 3 of the businesses. Now I knew that because I'm English and I'm calling from the UK, I was always going to have a distinctive kind of orientation when I called them, because they'll be like, wow, someone from London is calling. So I remember calling around this. I called all the companies and said, hey, I'm Leonard, I'm from MYCOMEUP, trying to get hold of Dame Dash. Is there a way we can get through to him? And I remember being kind of like realizing that because the companies were quite small, no one really knew what to say to me. So they were giving me names here's and names there's. But in the end, I managed to get the name of one of the assistants he works with, and I kept hearing her name. Her name was Raquel, and everyone kept referencing Raquel. So I realized, from speaking to the first 2 companies, that Raquel was someone that was really close to Damon, and that's who I could get in contact with to essentially, get this conversation going with Damon Dash. So I remember calling the final company, the Blue Rock company, and this time instead of asking for Dame Dash, I just asked for Raquel. So I said, hey, I'm calling from London. My name's Leonard, I'm from MYCOMEUP. We want to speak to Raquel. We have some great ideas. We want to fly Damon Dash over to the UK to do an event. And we had researched that he had a new brand at the time called Cavi Life. So we knew he was working on this brand. So our goal was to get him over to do a launch over in the UK, which I had gone ahead and kind of spoke to some club promoters here and said, can we bring Dame Dash over? They had kind of semi-agreed, but I did that before I had Dame Dash confirmed as well. So anyway, I was pitching the concept of bringing him over to London and doing a launch for this clothing brand that he's launched. So I asked for Raquel, and to my surprise, the person that answered the phone actually said she's not in the building, but do you want me to leave a message for her? And I just took the extra leap and I said, can you give me Raquel's number? And to my surprise, she gave me Raquel's number. So that was my first layer. I got to Raquel. Raquel, who you'll come out to see later, is actually more closer to Damon Dash than at the time the position was. But anyway, I got through to Raquel. So I got Raquel's number. I said to myself, damn, this is going to be good. So I remember preparing an email just on standby for kind of just to show how much we've been supporting Damon Dash through YouTube over the years, and just to show how, how passionate we are about, spreading his message. So I just prepared a little email just in case, she was in the standby, just in case she turned around and said to me, hey, yes, we want to work with you. So anyway, got the number for Raquel. I took a deep breath, breathed in, breathed out. Did I just breathe out or breathe in? I did one or the other. But anyway, I made the call to Raquel, and I literally just started to charm as much as I could. I said, Raquel, how you doing? She was like, hi. I knew they were kind of feeling the English thing, so I was like, hey, I'm Leonard, I'm calling from MYCOMEUP. We've been big followers of Damon. We've got this big plan to fly him over to London to do the launch of his events. I feel like, we can really get him to get more exposure in London. He has a big fan base here. And she went ahead and said to me, this sounds great. Can you send it to me in an email? As I expected. And I said to her, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Do you have an email address? So while I was on the phone to Raquel, I actually typed her email address and said to her, listen, I've just sent the email now. It's got a slideshow presentation to show you some of the ideas and to let me know what she thinks. So Raquel went on to tell me, to give me also her Skype. So she said, yeah, you can communicate with me on Skype as well, because I'm always on that. And I remember sending her the idea, and then she messaged me on Skype maybe. I followed up about like a week later, and she messaged me up and said, send me the plan. So I remember going back and then working on a deck for like 2 or 3 days. I didn't know what I was working on, to be honest with you. I was just doing it to kind of see if this was ever going to lead to somewhere. So I remember creating this deck, which just basically talked about Dame coming over to London, us doing this event with him. And if I'm honest with you, I had worked it out as that we would probably make money from the back end, which would be like maybe from the club appearance that they do or something of that nature. I mean, I can't remember the details of it, but it was more the back end. Anyway, I wait a week, don't hear anything, and then I decide to, instead of waiting and emailing or being on Skype, one day I decided, let me just give her another call, because I've got her mobile number. Instead of me doing the email, instead of me doing the Skype, I'm gonna call her. So I think it was just like an evening, and I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna give her a call. And I called her phone. And I called her up and I said to her, because I knew she was kind of impressed by the presentation, because she was kind of like, oh, this is cool. And we did put a bit of time in it. And I called her up and I said to her, hey Raquel, how you doing? Have you seen this, the document? I said, what do you think of it? And she kind of scruffled for a bit. I remember, because I used to see Raquel in Damon Dash's blogs. In Dame Dash's blogs, I used to see her always in the background, kind of like his part assistant. And then to my surprise, she was like, yes, I've seen it. And I was like, great, what do you think? And then she turned around to me and she said to me, Dame is here right now. Do you want to speak to him? And I was like, whoa. I didn't prepare for this. I didn't know this was gonna happen right now. All right, this is happening right now, live in the flesh. I mean, I've made a call. All I wanted you to do. Sometimes remember in life, you know, you're gonna exceed the expectations of your attempt. So all I wanted was for her to say, yes, I'm gonna email you again. But guess what? She had Damon Dash right next to her, and she said to me, do you want to speak to him right now? So I went ahead, took a deep breath, and said, go on, put him on the phone. Put Damon Dash on the phone, right? Keep in mind, remember, my presentation has been about Damon Dash bringing his clothing line over to London and doing a launch for it. So Damon Dash comes on the phone, and I'm thinking Damon Dash is gonna be happy. He's gonna be like, yeah, I like what you guys have done. And he comes on the phone, and Damon Dash's first line of words to me was,
hey, name 5 top brands in the UK.
And I was like, what? And I said, I remember like, I remember like thinking, what the hell? And I think I said to him, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and he said,
no, name 5 top streetwear brands.
And I was just like, I froze, and he was just like,
okay, who's gonna make money from the clubs?
and I was like, we haven't worked it out. And he said,
What do you know?
and I was like, and then he turned around and said to me,
Call me back when you know how to name 5 top streetwear brands and when you tell me how I'm gonna make money from this trip.
and he hanged up. So that was my experience with Damon. But as time has gone on, what I take from that conversation and what I learned about that experience is that I was trying to pitch him on something that I hadn't done the education on, and that's the truth. I hadn't done the education on the streetwear brands, and I hadn't done I hadn't really covered how he would be making money. So there's 2 things I learned from that conversation. The first thing was, you know, you have to study what you're pitching. You have to know what you're pitching. You can't just be calling people. And, you know, sometimes our goal is to just get that conversation, but we don't know what we want when we get it, right? And I think for me, my goal was to get that conversation meeting, and I never understood or expected my ambition to actually get me on the phone with him. And that's the reality. Your ambition will get you on the phone with the people you want to, but are you prepared for that person when he's ready to listen to you? Or when he or she is ready to listen to you? And I think the big lesson I learned in this conversation was, 1, to be aware of what it is you're actually presenting as an opportunity for someone, and all areas of it, not just the product, but the industry of it. If I had taken some time and understood the streetwear market and understood about Supreme and understood about all the other streetwear brands that were going out, maybe I could have had more value to give to him about what's happening in the UK. But instead, because I wanted to, you know, use his value to kind of not only get the interview, but to build a relationship, I wasn't really in a position to teach him about our culture in the UK. And I also think it's also important to kind of make sure that when you're doing business with people you aspire to do business, it's not really about trying to make money from the scenario either. It's about trying to build that relationship. So I think me not really figuring out the dynamics of how the club would separate the capital and the money was also another flaw. And I think, you know, later on it turns out that Dame Dash and Raquel are now together, and I believe they were expecting a child, which is a beautiful thing. And he continues to inspire. But I think Damon Dash, in his harsh, at the time I took it as a harsh approach, taught me so much. And the main thing that I want to say to you in this story is that, you know, you can get in contact with anyone. You have to be a bit more tenacious. You have to go around to get in. But the reality is when you get in, are you prepared for the in? And that's what I learned in that scenario. To be in the scenario, the problem a lot of the time we think is the actual journey of getting to the source, not realizing that the source can come, but are we ready for it? And I think that's a very big lesson to take from this conversation. Dame Dash still continues to inspire today, and he's doing amazing stuff. And you know, I learned a lot from that experience, and to be honest, I'm impressed with getting in contact with him in the first place. So yeah, just thought I'd share that story with you because I think it's one that any of you that are looking at people that aspire you, that you want to get in contact with, you can use a method like that. Go around to get in, right? But that's my story. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe as usual. I provide educational sales content to help you to communicate, orientate, and increase your conversion rate. And that's all through my experience of building multi-million-pound companies, and more importantly, mastering the skill of sales. So I'm Leonard Sekyonda. Once again, if you're new, hello. And if you have already been with me, let me know what you think about this video in the comments, and any other topics and stories you want me to share with you that you may know about me that you want me to share, or you may want me to share based on the comments, or you may want me to share based on, you know, where you're at right now. So anyway, I'm Leonard Sekyonda. Always good sharing stories with you. Catch you soon.